Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Yes, it's another one, episode 3 of Random Football. And we have quite a lot to get into this week. A lot has been happening in football. I think it's one of the most, if not the most, craziest transfer window that I've seen in a while. A lot of things have been happening. Things have been going up and down. A lot of movements, a lot of non-movements, a lot of things that we are going to get into. But before that happens, guys, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, especially the likes. The likes helps the video to get, pushed out to more people so more people can see this and we can have more conversations. I want to thank everyone who watched last week's video. Thank you so much. But comment, get in the comments. Tell me what you think. I love to hear it. Again, it's going to be a long one. If you like my voice and you don't like my face, don't worry. I'm putting this into a podcast form coming to you very soon. So don't worry about that. You might just want to just listen and not see me talk the whole time, which is perfectly fine. But for now, we're going to get right into it, guys. Let's go. First up on the agenda this week, we're talking Mo Salah from last week's episode. Carrying it on to this side. Obviously, I spoke about how he wanted 400K last week, but it looks like they have settled at 350K a week until the 2025 season, which, is good enough. I think by that time, Salah would have hit, he would have given Liverpool everything. He is getting quite old. I'm not really sure what his age is, but I think that by that time, things would have been, done, hopefully Liverpool would have gotten what they want. And if he's getting 350K a week, he probably is going to get what he wants. It's interesting to see how Liverpool maneuvered this whole this whole situation between Mane and Salah. Obviously, Salah is the more frequent performer. He is the best talent in the world at the moment. He is the top of the food chain at Liverpool, and seeing them let Mane go, who I think, if you really look at how Liverpool play, if you look at the front three, I think the workhorse, to be honest, is Mane and what he gives. So it's going to be interesting to see how Klopp kind of fills that gap this season. Nunes comes in on the left. I don't know what's going to happen with the left side at Liverpool. Diaz is there, I guess. So maybe that transition was starting to be made when they signed him in January, I think it was. So maybe that transition was already in there. Salah is 30 as of today. He's a 92 baby. Wow. Okay. So it's just interesting that the way to see how Klopp is going to fix that when it comes to the new team this season. Is it going to be successful? In episode 1, I did talk about Nunes and how I think that, one good season is not enough to kind of put you on the map. And especially in a team like Liverpool, if you are not, off the mark immediately, then they start looking for ways to move around you. And Klopp has the power to kind of look at that and say, you know what, this is not working. But I think because of Nunes's price tag, he's going to be given a lot more chances. He's going to be given a lot more time. But at the end of the day, he's stepping into Salah's house. And it's just, you have to respect the king. You have to respect the pharaoh. And the pharaoh, if the pharaoh demands the ball and you want to score, tough luck, buddy. It's just going to be interesting to see the dynamics and how Klopp deals with that. Moving on to another big and another big money move is Richarlison to Spurs. Interesting one. Again, I hate to say it about, another team, but I think Richarlison to Spurs is another good move on Conte's side. He is making some really good signings this season, and it's just interesting to see. They've made 4 so far. I think it's Bissouma, Perisic, Richarlison, and there's one more player that's come in whose name I can't remember right now. But looking at kind of what is shaping up to be Spurs front line next season, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, he has Son, who's untouchable. He has Harry Kane, who's untouchable. We're looking at Kalvishneski. I don't know this guy's name, but yeah, he had a good start, but I think Richarlison might be above him in the order, in the food chain at Tottenham. I think Richarlison is the type of player that Conte loves. He loves that, that battler, that fighter, someone who's just going to get out there and do the dirty work up front. And that's what Richarlison is about. He's a gritty player, so it's going to be a fascinating scene for that front three, which is scary for Chelsea supporters like myself, because I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, like, Tottenham look good. Arsenal have just signed what's his name, Gabriel Jesus. Obviously Man City, Liverpool. But I feel like as amazing as these windows have been, one of these or two of these teams is going to find that maybe it doesn't always work out to be well. And my money's on Liverpool and Arsenal, to be honest, but we'll see how it goes. And I also don't think that Haaland is going to be the sensation that he was in, Austria and Germany. So we'll see, but I don't see it. I don't really see how, these new signings, especially for Man City and Liverpool, are just going to be exactly what they need, especially in a title race and in a league that's going to be super competitive this season. I don't know what's like. I'm still trying to look at, the moves that everyone's making and trying to kind of think, what's going to happen? Who's going to do what? Where's, is there a top five for Arsenal? Man United, what's going on there? They're still struggling with the dejong situation, we'll get into in a bit. But it's just interesting to see how everyone is moving and if it's going to work out. And you look at teams like Newcastle, you look at West Ham, you look at Aston Villa, who have strengthened. It's going to be an interesting Premier League season, man. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be blockbusters. I think we might see a big change in what we call the top six, or is it now top seven? Is it top eight? Or like, I think a lot is gonna change, especially this season. People want to play in the World Cup, so players are gonna be at the top of their game. So it's just gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Going back to Richarlison, I think it's a good signing. I think Conte knows exactly what he's doing. Daniel Levy has backed him, which is very interesting. He didn't back Mourinho as much. He didn't back the guy who came in, who I forget his name, who came in after Mourinho. Nunes, I think it was Nunes after Mourinho. That Darwin Nunes is Liverpool. Anyway, so he hasn't backed managers. I think the last one that he kind of backed was Pochettino. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Conte demands a lot from his players. So we will have to see if, the back maybe needs a change. Is Lloris going to stay? I mean, there's a lot going on at Tottenham, and it's a very interesting a team to look at right now. Yeah, moving on to the saga of all sagas. That's, there was a time at Chelsea Football Club when we wanted a player. We went out, we got the player. The player agreed to terms. We agreed to terms with the team. We got the player, and that was it. It was just, it was just boom, boom, bam, 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 bop, boom, bap, boom, bop. And this Raphinha situation is really, 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 really getting crazy. It's getting on my nerves a bit because I think what is happening is showing Chelsea to not be the powerhouse that I think and that Chelsea fans and that football fans around the world know Chelsea to be. And it's not a great look for our new owners. It's not a great look for what that means for the future, especially how we look at the transfer window and how things are going to move forward from here on. So what is happening with this Raphinha situation? So apparently, from my understanding, and obviously there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we're not privy to, but from what my understanding is that earlier on in the year, Barcelona had an agreement. I'm not sure if it was verbal or is a written agreement with Raphinha, the player, on personal terms. Barcelona didn't have a conversation with Leeds because I think they probably thought that Leeds were going to get relegated anyway, so they could get Raphinha at a cheaper, maybe 20 to 25 or 30 million, something like that, right? Now, the saga has continued until the end of the season where Leeds have secured their place in the Premier League and now are in the driving position to demand whatever they want from a team that wants to get Raphinha. And same with Calvin Phillips going to Man City. So, looking at that, Chelsea have stepped in. Chelsea have come in and said, okay, here is the conversation or the right way of doing things. And we're going to have a conversation with Leeds first. Agreed to terms at about 60, I think it's about 60 million that Chelsea have agreed to get Raphinha for. Leeds have agreed to this, and now the conversation is where Chelsea is waiting to have a conversation with Raphinha about the situation and the personal terms. Raphinha and his agent Deco, again, who is a former Chelsea player, who is a former Barcelona player, because of the agreement that they've had, apparently, with Barcelona, Raphinha is looking to see what Barcelona can do. If Barcelona can step up their bid to get Leeds to accept their bid for Raphinha to move to Barcelona. Apparently, it's his dream club, blah, 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 so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the story. That's where we're at. Apparently, the bid was made on Tuesday by Chelsea. We've been waiting practically the whole week. Apparently, yesterday, Todd Bowley gave him until the end of Saturday, the 2nd of July, to make up his mind. Now, here's my issue with this situation. First of all, Chelsea Football Club have a bigger fish to fry. Chelsea have to look at things that they actually need in the transfer market. That's the first thing, right? We need defenders. We're looking at guys like Ligt, Conte, so on and so forth, a bunch of different guys that we're looking at getting into our defense, which is great. Now, this Raphinha situation is stalling a lot of the progress and a lot of conversations that need to be had because of the payment structures. I think that the reason why a lot of the other transfers haven't been done is because in order to understand, because Raphinha, Chelsea have decided to put up a huge chunk. This is according to Fabrizio. Chelsea have decided to put up a huge chunk of the money up front, more than Barcelona are willing to do, right? And that is why there needs to be an understanding of, if the deal with Raphinha goes through, this is how much Chelsea are going to be able to give. And that means that for the other transfers, Chelsea would have to negotiate better terms on how their payment plans are going to work. I think that's a big stumbling block for Chelsea, and that's why this Raphinha part affects whatever Chelsea does in the other transfers, right? Apparently, Chelsea is still going on and talking to the likes of Raheem Sterling. They're talking to Juventus for De Ligt and Sevilla and everything's still going on. But I feel like it's very important to kind of put that out there and understand that this is part of the reason why this Raphinha situation is such a headache for Chelsea. That's one part. The other part is it's embarrassing. Like, as a top football club, And I understand the pedigree of Barcelona. I understand the pedigree of Real Madrid. When those clubs come calling, you kind of, you want to say yes. You want to be part of that. But the reality is Barcelona are going through a lot of financial issues right now. So I'm sure Deco and his people and Raphinha know this better than us, the, YouTubers or whoever else, or the media even. Making Chelsea wait for Barcelona to figure something out, like in the way this thing is happening, is kind of embarrassing for Chelsea. It shows that Chelsea Football Club is not the club that we think it is. It's not the club that people think it is, and it's like I said, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to look at. It's embarrassing to see. And I personally think that Chelsea should remove themselves from this transfer before I think it's about too late now, because it looks like he has asked Deco to tell Chelsea to back off and remove their bid, and he's still waiting for Barcelona. That is the news. Unfortunately, Leeds are sticking to their guns because they said they've already made an agreement with Chelsea to sell the player. It's just personal terms that need to be agreed. So it's a whole saga going on, and Chelsea in the past year have signed players who were kind of on the fence of playing with Chelsea. They didn't really want to go to Chelsea, but Chelsea was an option that, because we pushed so hard, because we were that team that paid 100 mil and we want to pay 60 mil, now the player feels forced to come to the bridge. And I think that we need to stop doing that. We need to look for players that are happy and willing to play for Chelsea, and don't look at Chelsea as a second option, or if things don't work out there, I will go to Chelsea, or I was forced to leave Inter to go to Chelsea, and that's why. And when I got there, things didn't work out with Thomas Tuchel, and I threw my toys out the pram, and blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. And it's an issue, and it's an issue that Chelsea have had previously with players that didn't want to leave certain clubs, that wanted to go to certain clubs, came to Chelsea, underperformed, got their move, and it was up yours, Chelsea. Thank you for being a stepping stone club to what I needed. We need to stop looking at players that actually feel like they don't want to be at Chelsea Football Club. Being part of the history, the culture, the winning mentality at Chelsea Football Club demands players that are looking to be part of it, that are looking to play for Chelsea and be there constantly. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it's important to me that players that come into this club that I love want to play for the club. Don't look at Chelsea as a second option, and don't look at it as a stepping stone to greater things. So that's my opinion on this whole Raphinha saga. I truly hope that it doesn't happen. I hope that Barcelona find a way to get him through the door, register him, put him on the books. In a year or 2 years, he'll have to cut wages, blah, 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 all of that. I hope that happens, because I really don't want to see. I think he's an amazing player. I think that he would bring a new dynamic to the Chelsea front three. I think the reason why Thomas Tuchel has gone out and looked for Raphinha is because he's looking to solidify that front three. But if a player doesn't want to play for Chelsea, don't force it, and let's move on and find someone that actually does. Preseason is about to start. We don't have time to be, negotiating and waiting a whole week for Raphinha to make a decision when we can truly, everyone can see that he wants to go to Barcelona, and he should be able to do that. Right. Moving on and sticking with Barcelona, this whole Frankie de Jong situation to Man United is kind of, it's one of those situations that's kind of, it's embarrassing, it's freaky, it's weird, it's like, just the kid doesn't want to go to Man United. Like, he's made it obvious that he doesn't want to go. Van Gaal said in a press conference that he had a conversation with him and he doesn't want to go to Man United. He wants to stick it out at Barcelona. So why not just leave him? Why are clubs pushing for players to come to a team where to come play for a team that he doesn't really want to play for? I think it's just bad. It's bad business. It's bad for the club. We need, a big part of playing in the Premier League is the passion that players have for the badge that they're playing for. I think the reason why United are in the situation that they are is because they have a bunch of players that they've brought in that don't really want to be at United, that don't really want to play for United, that don't know what it is to play for Manchester United. I mean, if you look at a lot of Ferguson's signings, those players were, run-of-the-mill players that in today's market would cost 5 million, almost nothing. They would be playing for middle table teams, but they came to United and they were indoctrinated with this mentality of what it means to play for Manchester United, and that's why Ferguson was so successful for such a long time. But these days things have changed. The team is not what it used to be because a lot of the players don't understand. They've come in for maybe a big money signing, but they don't understand what it means to play for this legendary football club. And I'm afraid that Frankie de Jong coming, yes, whatever the new coach is, they've known each other from the Ajax days, but if he doesn't want to play for the club, he doesn't want to play for the club. It's as simple as that. So it's just, it's interesting to see, how clubs, especially clubs like, Chelsea and Man United are moving through this window. I think with Chelsea, you might have the excuse that, yes, new owners coming in, they're Americans, they don't really know how these things work. They just think that if they throw the money at the problem, it will fix it, but it's not going to. And I think Todd Bowley is going to learn that pretty quickly, that that's not how it works in football. It's not how it works, especially in the European market where you have all these amazing top teams that want this small group of players. So again, with this Frankie de Jong situation, Man United fans, I don't know, let me know in the comments what you think about the situation. If you're happy for de Jong to, stay at Barcelona. Obviously, it would be an amazing signing for Man United, but do you want a player that doesn't want to play for your team? I don't know. It's weird. I think it's very strange. Moving on to more Chelsea talk, Chelsea news. Nathan Ake is looking like one of the potential signings to to Thomas Tuchel and what's going on at Chelsea. My God, it's sad. It's sad because Chelsea have this thing of selling players, players with great potential like a Tomori and so on and so forth. The list is long. And then going back and paying twice or double what they sold them for. Nathan Ake is not leaving Man City without a substantial offer. I'm talking in upwards of 45 million and up. So it looks like the amount of money that Chelsea sold him for, which was peanuts at the time, I'm not really sure, but it wasn't. I don't even think it was more than 20 mil. Now Chelsea's going in and going to pay 45 to 50 million for a player that we had under our books, that we could have loaned out like most. And we're going to have to pay that big time. And that's just what it is, which is, it's an embarrassing move. It's not great it's not a great look for a club. And we keep on doing this. We did this with Lukaku. It didn't work out. Who else did we do this with? There's another player who's not coming to mind right now, but it's a reality in Chelsea Football Club. We look at guys like when Tammy Abraham goes to Italy and he scores 20 plus goals, the conversation already is, did Chelsea make a mistake? Chelsea have a buyback clause that they should use. Tomori goes out to thing and he makes, he does all these great things. Should Chelsea go back? No, we've made our bed. We must lie in it. It is what it is. It's not going to work. It's not going to help us to go back and buy the player for triple what we sold him for in the first place. So I'm totally against Nathan Ake going back to going back to Chelsea, I think that there's a pool of top defenders that would love to play for Chelsea, that would like to come in. And I just don't think that I'm not impressed with what Nathan Ake has done at Man City. Like he hasn't been, a defender that's kind of played a lot of the games. But at the end of the day, like it's just not enough for him to come back to Chelsea and play the amount of games that we need to. And I don't think that Chelsea are going to spend upwards of 45 million for a squad rotation player. It just doesn't make sense. So it's interesting to see, man. It's a tough one, but it's interesting to see, and hopefully, again, it's one of those things where I'm hoping that it doesn't happen, that Man City stand firm on their price and Chelsea just cannot handle it. And hopefully that's what happens. But we'll see how that goes. Sticking with Chelsea, we're going to look at a potential incoming transfer, which is Ligt to Chelsea. A lot of comparisons have been made. I was actually on Chelsea Perspective yesterday. Guys, if you don't know Chelsea Perspective, please, he has a show on, Coachella has a show on almost every day of the week. And I think it's around 11. Anyway, I will put the link in the description. You guys could go have a look. It's really interesting. I think it's mostly focused on Chelsea and what's going on at Chelsea. But I was on yesterday and we were having this conversation. And apparently Ligt is being compared to a Maguire. I think maybe because of the amount of money he's going for. I'm not really sure what attributes they have that's in common, which I don't know. I don't really agree with. I think the first thing we have to look at is his age. He's 22. He's a young player, which is great because you see a lot of development in him. You see a lot of potential if he is under the right coach who can frame him to be that strong defender that he needs to be. And we at Chelsea we happen to have this type of coach in Thomas Tuchel, who has done it to the likes of Kimpembe, who revived Rudiger's career after what happened with Frank Lampard. We have Chalobah, who's come in and grown into this top defender. We have a bunch of these players that have had that molding by Thomas Tuchel, and I think with a 22-year-old like Ligt, who already has all these capabilities and all this technical ability, it's important that yes, if he is able to make mistakes, and if he does make those mistakes, that he can be molded into a player that can be smarter and that can look that can look at what he's done in the past and rectify those mistakes. Additionally, we also have to look at who he is surrounded by. Firstly, before we even get into that, he was the leader of an incredible Ajax team. He was the captain of that team, and he led them to, I think it was a semi-final that they were unfortunately beaten by by Spurs. It was. I think they had really two great seasons, and they won the league in the Netherlands. And obviously winning the league for Ajax in the Netherlands is not such a big deal. But for a kid at his age, he was 19, 20, and he was the leader already of the pack. Which when there were all the guys like Ziyech in there, and it's very interesting to see the ability of such a young man to be able to do that. Additionally, now he has played alongside Bonucci. He has played alongside Chiellini, who I'm sure he has learned a lot from. On the international stage, he plays with Virgil van Dijk again, who he has he probably has learned a lot from. He's going to get that experience. The World Cup is coming up and things like that. If you look at how he plays, he's the runaround defender. When you have strong, stable players like a Chiellini or a Van Dijk, you need a central defender who's able to make those runs and be that disturbance for Chiellini or Van Dijk to come and just clean up if the ball does go past him. And that's what he's gonna have at Chelsea if he comes and he plays alongside Thiago Silva, who is not a spring chicken, but he still plays like, he's got a few more years in him. And I think that with all of these names that I've mentioned, these top defenders that I've mentioned, all this experience that he's bringing to the team, I think by the time he is 25, De Ligt is going to be a beast of a player. He is going to be top of the food chain when it comes to defenders. So if Juventus need to get rid of him now, and first it was 120 mil, now it's gone down to about 100 mil. I'm sure Chelsea could get him for, around the 75, 80 mark, because Juventus need the money right now. I think it's a perfect signing to come in and make sure that we solidify our defense for a very long time. I think Roman Abramovich started this whole, building a team that can challenge for a really long time with the likes of, Mason Mount being in there, Reece James, Kai Havertz coming in for such big money. And, and looking at the team and the average age of the team, we're at around 24, 25, the average age of the team, which is fantastic. And these players are going to be hitting their prime pretty soon. And once they hit their prime with a proper coach and proper structuring at the club, this club is going to be a beast of a club, and I cannot wait to see that. And I think De Ligt would fit in beautifully. Hopefully that happens. Hopefully Chelsea get it over the line. Obviously they're in need of at least minimum two central defenders to come in, one left and one right. So hopefully they can get it done. I'm pretty confident that it's going to happen, but with the Raphinha situation that I mentioned earlier, things are taking time, things are being stalled. Let's see how it goes. Fingers crossed, and hopefully Pulisic goes in the trade, but that's another story. Moving on, I wanted to have a conversation about Leeds selling, two of their top players. I think Calvin Phillips and Raphinha, regardless of the whole Raphinha situation, I kind of have to look at it in a very objective view. And I'm thinking to myself, are Leeds underselling their top players, especially in a market like this? I think Calvin Phillips is going for about £50 million to Man City, and Raphinha, depending on what Barcelona do, it looks like it's at about £60 million, him going to either Barcelona, Chelsea, whatever happens. And I think in today's market, I think Calvin Phillips could have, potentially, you could add maybe 30 million to that 50, or Raphinha, you could add another 20 million to it. So to me, it looks like Leeds, obviously they do want to rebuild. They the new coach, Jesse something, the American, I forget his name, wants players, that he has his stamp on, that will play his style of play. And if he feels that them going is great and that he can bring in players to replace that, which I think is going to be pretty difficult to replace those two, but if he feels that he can do that, that's fine. That's on him. But I just think that Leeds are underselling these players and could do a lot better. In this transfer market, especially with how desperate teams are looking to want these two players. It looks like Calvin Phillips refused two other teams because he wanted the Man City move, which, looking at that, you could have maybe had a bidding war, but that didn't happen. I think the deal is practically done. We're just waiting for the announcement from City. And Raphinha, £60 million. Yeah, I mean, it's good, but it could have been better. So I think Leeds are underselling their top players. I think other clubs would have put really high price tags on them, but we also have to look at maybe Jesse needs incomings, and the Leeds are willing to let them go for that price. Finally, we're going to talk about the new offside rule that, not new offside rule, but not apparently, FIFA are going to be using a new offside technology into the World Cup. They have a sensor in the ball. I'll leave a link to the video in the description so you can go see what is being spoken about and what FIFA are going to be doing with that. It's just, for me, it's great, it's fantastic, but looking at that technology, we as fans must be ready for something, and that something is that offside is offside. Like, we're going to have to come to that agreement, because over the past 2 years, especially in the Premier League, we've been looking at some of the offside calls that VAR has made, and a lot of people are saying, oh, but he's a hair offside, and his arm is offside or something. It's too fine of a line. Like, they try to make the lines thicker so that, like, these little, these offsides that were on the line can. Yeah, that's not going to happen anymore. It's over with. If the technology is coming in to make sure that happens, like goal line technology, the same technology, same offside technology was used in I think it was the Arab Cup and the Club World Cup, and it seemed to have worked out. And obviously, FIFA is not going to put that on their grandest stage of their prize baby. Use a technology that isn't 100% foolproof. So we, as fans, have to come to the understanding that offside will be offside, whether it's by a hair, whether it's by centimeters. Offside is going to be offside, and that's just the reality of bringing technology to aid referees, which a lot of our referees do need the aid. Linesmen have been doing a great job for a number of years, but now technology is coming in to bridge that gap, and hopefully that works out. You let me know in the comments what you guys think about this new technology, or technology is going to be incorporated into football whether we like it or not. But sometimes you want to give the attacker the benefit of the doubt because of the movement. You think to yourself, what, maybe it's offside, but we can let that one go because of the way he was moving or the way the defender was leaning. Whatever the case may be, it's going to be interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And also, I want to give a big shout out. Today, the 2nd of July, is the start of the African Cup of Nations for women. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, football on the African continent is a big deal. But when it comes to women, there hasn't been a focus as much as it has been on the European teams. I mean, if you look at some of the women's European teams, they're really something to be to be admired of how the implementation has been put in. And you look at the US, you look at Brazil feminine, you also look at Canada, who also have a good structure when it comes to women's football. So Africa needs to step up its game when it comes to female football. So the starting of this AFCON for women is a fantastic news. I probably have my money on either South Africa or Nigeria to win it, but we'll see how it goes. I will keep my eye on it, and I don't really know where I can watch these matches because I'm not sure if BN or one of the providers that I use have the matches on, but we will see how it goes. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Yes, today has been quite a long episode. And the reason for that is because I really want to put this into a podcast form so that, so you can have both. You can have the video and the podcast form. I will be cutting, some of these into smaller bits and putting them online, and we will see how that goes. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, please give me a review. That helps reach other people. And I will see you next week for Random Football. I've been your host, Lionel, and I'm out. Peace.